Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning. How we doing?
Happy Monday. Best day of the week.
Happy Monday, everybody. We're back. We're back.
Everyone have a good holiday weekend. Find all the Easter eggs.
Yeah, I found all of them.
Well, I wanted to start the show with a little anecdote for all the operators out there who deal with crazy people. I started my Easter Sunday by responding to a housekeeper saying that there were crawfish all over the rooftop of a building next door to our building. Come to find out, we had a group of people who had a crawfish boil, and they threw all of those crawfish on our rooftop terrace, and then it's all over the alleyways, and then all over the building's roof next door. And I just don't understand why that was a necessary thing. And so I started Easter Sunday with a guest eviction. Thankfully, they went quietly or quickly. I was like, you gotta go. And they're like, you're going to keep my money for today? I'm like, yes, I'm definitely going to keep your money for this extra night.
I'd be
crazy
that I wasn't invited because crawfish boils are delicious.
Yeah, they are.
Where was the invite, bro? Where was the invite? Would have kicked you out if you asked me to come and join.
It was so funny because they were like, I don't know, it wasn't me. I'm like, well, you're responsible for whoever you bring in here. So, you're the only possible people that could have done this from like where this is all positioned. It's like literally like a trail leading from the door. It's like
I have heard crawfish prices have come down this year significantly. Last year there was a shortage. So
there was, yes.
We're back. We're back, crawfish.
So just don't have them at our properties. And don't throw them from the roofs.
Just don't throw them.
Yeah.
No food fights.
No food fights.
Just leave the place better than when you found it. That's all we ask,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Michael, how was Easter with the boys? Find all the good eggs?
We have so much candy in our house right now. We need to slowly just siphon off and throw some away before cavities and chaos ensues. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, exhausting, but enjoyed it. Had a busy week last week, busy weekend, and hopefully not quite as crazy this week. Hopefully same old.
Yeah, hopefully same old.
How about you, Will?
Yeah, chill weekend. Got to hang out with some friends, some close Colorado friends, and then enjoyed Easter, went to church, and then got to watch the Formula One race. So it was a good overall day. Can't complain. One of my favorite drivers won, so it's good. It's a good day. It's a good day to say the least.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we're back with a busy week. So let's jump in. I think we got a couple stories around Airbnb, and it's been a hot topic on Instagram and LinkedIn as many quote unquote super hosts are freaking out. But it's a fun new policy, quote unquote change, they're calling it, but it's never really a change. It's something they're just reinforcing a little bit more to start off with Airbnb enforcing their off platform policy even harder. So if you're trying to get a guest to pay off platform or to book or rebook and cancel and do all these fun tactics to save a little percentage here and there, you're gonna get in trouble. Get a big slap on the wrist. So Brandy, love to maybe jump in with you. What do you think about this quote unquote new policy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more of them catching up with, as they create rules, everybody figures out their tips and tricks around the rules, and then they come back and they figure out a way to squash those tricks. And this has just been going on for a while. This is the latest iteration of it. I think that's just, it's a another reminder to diversify your channel mix, because when you see these changes that a platform makes and you're like, wow, I wish I had more control over that, or that's unfair. It's like they control the customer. So don't leave all of your inventory in their hands. But I know there was a lot of like noise about this, especially like in our little LinkedIn bubbles, but it's a policy from one of the big players, and I don't really think it's that shocking. And so there's still ways that you can collect guest information when when they've reached your property. But Airbnb is trying to, crack down on all of that. And there's different, you could use StayFi to collect vendors through Wi-Fi. You could use your guidebooks, and there's certain guidebooks that I think are still like approved vendors from them. So there's still ways around, the policy. It's just they're wise to some of the tricks that you've been using.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit before we went live. I mean, in the early days of a marketplace, you can game things so easily. But as you move later stage and sophisticated, it's much harder to do. And, that leakage is millions and millions of dollars for Airbnb. So if they bring you the customer, pay them. That's their job. That's your contract with them. But I've heard Rizzolio over at Verbo say a number of times, our job is to bring you the customer the first time. Your job is to keep them. If you don't do a great job, if you don't keep them, they're going to come back to us, and we're going to start the cycle over and over again. And I think that's a very pragmatic approach. And not everybody's going to go back to the same market or whatnot. And there is no global brand outside of Airbnb, Expedia, and Booking. So unless you're going to the same market over and over again and booking direct, then you are probably shopping on the OTAs. So I'll ride the fence a little bit. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, but at the same time, be smart on the back end and deliver a great experience. Gather guest information through Wi-Fi or passwords or perks and benefits that they can sign up for to return and book direct. But I think it's a whole lot of nothing. And Verbo's a PR machine. I think they chose their wording very wisely on their release to be somewhat vague and somewhat instill fear. But I mean, the worst thing possible that you could do is have your business shut down by Airbnb, because let's be honest, right now, they're probably at least 50% of everybody in the industry's business. So be careful, because they will shut you down.
Yeah.
And they won't think twice about it.
100%. I was going to say the one thing I saw a lot of people like kind of freaking out on Instagram around this policy. What does this mean for the, vendor tools, et cetera, like you were listing out, Brandy. And so I think for a lot of people listening, just read the policy. It's not anything crazy. You just got to be transparent up front, like in your listing, about any extra fees that are, going to be added or have to be charged, especially if Airbnb isn't the payment platform that collects like taxes or other things in your certain state or city. So just read the policy on the actual Airbnb site. Don't go to your Airbnb guru who can teach you to make $1 million on Airbnb in 1 year on their Instagram and listen to their advice. Just read the policy that's posted.
They want their cut of that early check-in, baby.
Yeah,
15%.
Well, so I will say that there's like there's like an annoying part to this, like extensions, and late checkouts, early check-ins, like depending on your PMS, doing that could be more or less difficult. So it could be just easier for you to like do it in your PMS, send them a link to pay, especially if they're doing an extension. I mean, I'll be honest, if someone came to us from Airbnb for 2 weeks and is deciding they're going to stay for another month, I'd love to just not take that through Airbnb. And then for early check-ins and late checkouts or 1-day extensions, again, depending on your PMS, that can be really a kind of a pain if you have to do it like through Airbnb. So there's definitely some annoyances here, but at the end of the day, kind of like moaning and complaining about it isn't really they're not going to And never in like history have they been like, actually, you know what? Because all of you bitched on LinkedIn, we're gonna go and change our policy. So
Surely it's happened once, right?
maybe once. I will fact check me on that, but not often. So adapt.
Yeah, and to your point, Brandy, it really plays into who are they building for and who's their target audience. It's a pain in your ass to go through and change a late check-in or check-out and charge them through the platform. But 80% of their people are just single hosts and it's easy for them. They'd prefer to go do it that way.
Yeah.
So they build for that cohort. And kind of leading into our next Airbnb topic, something that they probably haven't built for the professional cohort again, which I love as a traveler. Airbnb is now only going to display all in pricing, which again, as a traveler, I totally support. As a property manager, a professional property manager, there's a lot of back ends headaches that are created from an accounting standpoint. Most managers don't charge their fee on cleaning fees to homeowners. So if it's all melded into one, now you have to pull out what the standard cleaning fee is, and it becomes an accounting nightmare. So if Airbnb allows you to show that on the back end, but not commercialize it on the front end, that's a home run. But if they just roll it all in one and call it a day, then that's kind of another death by 1,000 cuts for property managers, making it harder and harder.
Yeah, and then it'll be interesting to see once all this rolls out, like, do people take the approach of just bundling things into rates that they send to Airbnb, or not? Because then, to your point, Michael, it'd be so difficult to like parse those things out. And then also, is Airbnb, would they then in that scenario they would be taking the commission on all like everything gets taxable differences and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of when these types of fee structures change, and then also like just like the integrations with different PMS, like I just find these things are always a nightmare when they get rolled out because everybody's kind of like playing catch up. But yeah, from a traveler perspective, this is fantastic. It's like, yeah, I want to know what the price is, not get like surprised once I see all your pretty pictures, you know?
Yeah. And I think in that I totally blanked, but we've got now an additional 15% on cleaning fees. So if your cleaning fee was typically $100, now it's going to be 115 because Airbnb has got to take their cut. So it just got more expensive to book on Airbnb. So again, unless they break it out on the back end and they're not charging their fee on additional fees that are required, like cleaning, surely they want professional cleaning. We saw in Focusrite's study pretty recently, we talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago, but only 59% of operators use professional third-party cleaners. So
yeah, something that still blows my mind, but
I hope there's a large number that just checked the box that because they have those professional cleaners in-house and they're not third-party. Maybe a slightly confusing question, but still, nonetheless, if there's nothing on the back end on Airbnb, and I'd love for someone to share with us that's done the digging to tell us if they're merchandising it in a markup way or not. But otherwise, everything on Airbnb just got cleaning fee plus 15% more expensive.
Well, I was going to say, if we thought travelers were having a hard time booking more in advance and paying higher ADRs and all this stuff, now I think Airbnb just made it even more difficult for the economic challenges we're seeing already. So way to go, Airbnb. We'll see how this reports back when we have Jamie Lane to give us some numbers on, the booking volume for the year and maybe how things are pacing out. See if this had any impact, because I'd be surprised if it didn't, to be honest. So
my mind keeps going on this cleaning fee topic. This is a way for Airbnb to collect more money on reservations. They're not going to break it out. Why would they do that? This is, a hotel rolls their cleaning fee into the price of the room. That gets charged to the guests. So, that's how traditional OTAs have operated.
But I would say, like, for Expedia, which is a traditional hotel OTA, we can send out all of our fees and then they come back as fees. So they like it's still possible depending on your product type. I think hotels have just their business model includes all of that bundled together so they don't separate it out. It's technically currently possible to be on a hotel OTA and have them separate.
Interesting. Well, Will, any more on this topic before we move into the next OTA topic?
No, that's good for me.
All right.
OTA of the
So
day.
OTA of the
Expedia, Expedia, one of the things that we've talked about on the show many times is their B2B strategy. And I love it. There's an article in Skift that we'll share in the notes. And Expedia basically answers a question that this is an opportunity, an exciting industry trend for us to meet travelers where they are. And when the travel landscape is changing so quickly through credit cards, through AI, through search, yada, yada, just having your store in one spot on Expedia.com isn't enough. And Expedia has cracked that code. They have more than 70,000 people, 70,000 businesses selling their B2B technology and 160,000 traveler advisors, travel agents. So their network is vast. This strategy, I think, is future proofing for themselves. And I know Booking has a pretty good and robust program. I don't think Airbnb does. And this could be something that they have to figure out pretty quickly as AI and search within AI takes hold. They're going to have to figure this piece out because you have to meet the traveler where they are.
Yeah, I think this, I mean, we had an example of this. I didn't realize yet that our properties, you could find them on Chase Travel because Chase uses Expedia. And so that was great. Just like I interacted with the guests who would come in. Now there are some like kinks on the back end, like on our side, it looks like they come from Expedia, and so everything is getting sent to them, but the traveler wasn't receiving any of the information, and then when they called Chase, they said that we had to call the hotel, but then we didn't have any of their information to verify them. So luckily, I like saw the guest, but there is this kind of disconnect of like who is in charge of communicating with the guest, because if you're that guest, you're like, okay, do I talk with the credit card company that I booked, or is it Expedia, or is it the hotel? So but like those kind of like kinks aside, I really love this, especially as, you know, everybody's obsessed with their credit card points and using those. And we've talked about that a lot recently. So I've loved this. I think it's a great strategy, and it is, I think Expedia, it's definitely winning this game. I don't know if booking.com is connected to a credit card company yet. But that's definitely the play.
Yeah, I've seen both Booking and Expedia connected with different credit card companies. And I think Hopper might still be in some regards, but I think this is an opportunity for Airbnb to really step up and figure stuff out quickly, because this is the changing landscape. And maybe that's what's behind the scenes. You know, they did that big buyout of an AI company a couple years ago, and like $200 million. So maybe that's the direction that they're going to take it. But I just don't know. It's going to be an interesting path. They just doing short-term rentals and not having merchandising on third-party platforms could create problems for them down the road.
Yeah, right now there's a lot of reliance on just being such a household name and like being kind of like the brand if you're going to book a home. But as we've been talking about kind of like ad nauseum for the last year or so, like these two spaces are blending together, and, you know, you're going to be able to book all the same things on all the same platforms. So how can you do that more, like, you know, most easily? It's probably going to be through your credit card or something like that. And I think it's interesting. Was it this year or last year? I don't know, my sense of time has gotten all messed up, but where some executives were kind of criticizing leadership at Expedia for focusing on B2B too much. And it's like, no, that's probably one of the best ideas they've had. That's a great focus.
Yeah, and their new CEO, I say new, in the past year or so, came out of this line of business. So it's an area that's of importance to the board, and it makes total sense. And as a third party, call it platform, if I wanted to leverage Expedia's inventory at the tip of your fingers, you have 750,000 properties, hotel properties available worldwide, 500 different airlines, and 220 different activity companies. So just an absolute monster, just giant sitting there waiting for you to go find the end user. So Expedia essentially gives up half of their commission to the booking partner, the travel portal. And from that, you can, as if you have the guests, if you have the travelers in that network, you have access to every property in the world and earn a commission on it. So, I mean, I think anyone who's ever tried chasing supply and adding it for Airbnb or Booking or Hopper or whatever knows that it takes a lot of time and a lot of man hours and resources go into adding new properties. This is kind of a one-stop shop. So
Yeah, I think so. We were trying to figure out how to get on like American Airlines, like their version, like all their hotel selections, and you can only do that through Agoda right now. But Agoda is very difficult to work with, at least from our perspective, and a lot of the connectivity partners like aren't working with them anymore, or it's not being supported. And so when we realized like, oh, just through our current and existing Expedia connection, we get blasted to all of these different sources, like that's amazing. That just takes, you kind of have to figure out the nuances of like how the communication is happening, but that's pretty easy compared to like weeks trying to figure out how to onboard. Do they actually support it? What's going through? Blah, blah, blah. So I love it and I'm here for it. And yeah, hopefully we keep getting more. I like running into actual guests that are using these products. And it's like, how did you find your way here? Because typically, and this is what I think is great news for our industry, it's people that would not have normally booked that stay if they were like, they wouldn't have searched short-term rental, but they came through it through this program.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, probably the past 4 or 5 hotels I've stayed in, I've used the points platform, which is then ultimately powered by either Expedia or Booking. So it's been a win-win. And, I think we've seen the credit card companies play more and more in the space. I think they want direct connectivity because then they get the whole market share instead of half of it. But, that takes time and there's no sense in investing millions and millions and millions into doing that. You build the audience first and then start picking off direct contracts from there.
Yeah.
So one other bit of news, the ongoing saga drama of Casago and Vacasa and Davidson Kempner. It looks like it's almost come to a head. The vote from shareholders is in 8 days from now. Vacasa has announced that they will be, the proxy advisors have announced they will recommend the transaction with Casago go through. So it kind of feels like the end until a lawsuit comes, because inevitably it seems like it's heading that direction. But it does look like, unless something goes crazy in the board vote in 8 days, then they will be, Casago will be Vacasa or vice versa.
Yeah. And then the process of absorbing, all those tens of thousands of units will begin.
Well, yeah. And I think the decentralized approach is going to be a great approach in the end.
For sure. You can it's batching them out and, and really great for those local markets. I think we've talked about this a lot, but that local approach really, that's how you provide a superior experience, I think, for everyone involved. And so it'll take some time. I mean, there's a lot to sift through there, but once they kind of get the flow of things, I think you're gonna start to see like a little bit of a revival of those markets.
I hope so. And even if that 40,000 ends up being 20 or 25,000 homes, I mean, add that on top of what Casago already has, 5 or 6,000, I think. Someone can correct me, but that's a monster franchise business. So we will know at scale how well the franchise model can perform. And we've already seen a couple fast followers come in on the backs of not just this deal, but the the franchise model at whole. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more fast followers when this goes through, if there's any kind of early indicators of quick success.
Well, I think that's because everybody's been trying to figure out how do you actually make this model successful, scalable, and sustainable. And so if this really is the model that works, I would expect that people would quickly hop on that, convert their businesses, kind of try to figure out whatever the winning formula is, because it's been kind of a slog to get there.
And then we'll see how many survive that change and who actually can run a franchise business rather than just a centralized managed company. So it'll be very interesting because we've seen a lot in Brandy. I think there was 2020, end of 2021, beginning of 2022, where we saw so many property management companies become tech because they're like, oh, we can become a PMS. Let's just do that instead. That'll be an easier way. And if everyone thinks that model or thought that model was the right model, ended up not being the right one. And now you're going to see a bunch of people go into franchises that may not know what they're doing or be fully prepared for that change.
Well,
so
I just have such empathy for all these people trying to figure out at a kind of on the drop of a dime, like what, how do you make this successful? And because there are all sorts of surprise headwinds, there are, all sorts of changes that come your way from like just a traveler perspective. And then you have to adjust your business, figure out what structure actually works. And so it's stressful being in those situations and being like, okay, well, we've committed to like now franchise model, and you're not going to know for a little while if you're right or not. And so,
well, and there's going to be, there's definitely growing pains, right? I think finger to the wind, the industry average is 1 employee per 12 or so homes. And if you're an existing Costco market and you're inheriting another 40 contracts, well, now you got to figure out, okay, I know I'm going to need more people. Where am I going to need them? Where do I have efficiencies? Where can I rely on, corporate and the brand to help? So there's definitely going to be growing pains as expected, just like there would be with any transition of ownership. But I'm here and excited to see how this plays out. I have high expectations. This is how the hotel industry has operated for decades. So quite honestly, kind of shocked it's come this far without us having a franchise at scale. But we learn fast in technology, and maybe in business models we've acted slow. So
yeah,
100%.
We can learn something from hotels.
yeah. My worry is with like hotel franchises, though. Those are most likely bought real estate assets that obviously like you can't just put residential. So a lot of the stuff is that the inventory part is easier. I don't know. It's hard to sell a franchise at inventory that can just leave your program pretty easily. When you own a franchised hotel, it's really hard to let that hotel go. It's where else is it going to go other than management companies or maybe different flags? It's about it. It's a hotel. It's going to have to operate as a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So
managing hundreds of owners, managing varying levels of properties and standards. I think we've talked on the show about standards a lot, but there's definitely a need to have some sort of traveler awareness of standards out there. And I think the first that can do that is going to succeed in a big way.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Do you have to go to these former Vacasa owners and say, your house does not meet our standards? It's like, do you sacrifice revenue or do you just, that's like, I think that's where we find the pitfall with standards sometimes. So we shall see.
It's getting the majority to follow suit and saying this is the right standard. This is high quality enough to become a standard. This is, I don't know, finding a way to differentiate yourself and to actually, I think it's great to draw that line in the sand, especially with owners. It's like, hey, I'm not going below this type of quality. I'm not going below this type of communication standard. I'm not going below this. If you're not okay with that, you want to go with a cheaper company or a company that wants to be less formal or less put together with these policies. great, fine by me. Be on your way. But I don't know.
Well,
That's just me.
it's almost I'm probably halfway in between you two, but I think the rising tides will raise all ships. We create a standard, and now some of these lower end properties will start to adopt those standards because they are lower in search rank. They're not getting as many bookings, blah blah blah. They want to elevate their properties, and that's what you see in hotels. You switch from a Best Western to a Holiday Inn, you level up your service, your interiors, your FF&E, and convert that property into, from a 3-star to a 4-star or a 2-star to a 3-star. So you just want to level up, but it's going to take establishing that level, that standard first before you see other properties start to move up the chain.
Yeah. You right. You're right. You could be right. We'll see. We'll see it play out.
We'll find out.
We'll find out for sure. Well, fun episode, fun Monday, post Easter. What's up this week? Anything exciting? Anything we should know about, or same old?
Jazz Fest coming up, and I actually get to go because I'm here. So
Wow.
I'm going one day. We're going to see Lil Wayne and the Roots, which I think is going to be really good. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Wayne's going to be awesome.
I'm jelly.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that. We've got our rezoning hearing on Wednesday, so wish us luck. It's definitely not Lil Wayne in New Orleans, but
no.
It could get rowdy. We'll see.
Different kinds of rowdy.
Well, this tells you guys how my entry into 30 is going. Last week I had bought tickets to a concert. Doors open at 10 p.m. I was like, all right, it's a Thursday. 10 p.m. It's not that bad. Bedtime's around 8:39, so it'll be a little past my bedtime. Guess what? Homeboy has dinner. I put on a TV show, fall asleep at like 7:30. Even had an alarm set. I had an alarm set to like 9:30, all the way up to like 9:50 because doors don't open till 10. Opener you can miss for a little bit. But then, I woke up at 1 a.m. and my buddy had like called me and texted me 1,000 times who I had his ticket. So ended up not going. Apparently at 10 p.m. is too old for me. Or too late for me. So I'm getting up there in the age.
Man.
So trying to enjoy these concerts. Man, like I would love to go to Lil Wayne, but I need them to be like 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock.
Yeah, 30 hit you hard.
I was like, oh shoot. So we'll get a concert in there one day, but it's a good time. Anyways, shout out to Paul Manzi, who is always tuning into the live every Monday. And Paul, I hope this doesn't break your heart and the sad news, but I am no longer part of Recreation Rentals anymore. So I'm out of the game. I'm out of the property management game, Paul. So keeping my hands clean. But good episode. You guys have a great week. So excited for all that you're doing. More excited for Brandy than anything, but just keep it there. All right. So for all the morning people, tuned into our shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, and of course Thursday for Good Morning Europe, Good Morning Hotels, and of course Good Morning Outdoors, the newest segment of the show. Like and subscribe, and you can go to our website to get on that newsletter train. So until then, we'll see you guys again next week.